Hello again, it's Alan. Um, this is a video about the fears that I had about transitioning before I decided to transition, and whether or not those fears came true. Um, I'm making this because I'm sure that a lot of people who are considering transition probably have fears, because from all of my very extensive YouTube video watching, that's the impression that I've gotten, that people have fears before they transition. It makes sense. It's a really huge life change that comes with some irreversible changes if you go on hormones. So, what were some of my fears before transition? Well, I'm sure you can hear something about those if you watch my old videos, but let me sum them up. So I'll start with the physical. So some of my fears about physical changes with going on testosterone is one, of course, was the fear of going bald. Similarly, or kind of similarly, the fear of getting really furry, getting a lot of body hair. So clearly, neither of those things has happened yet. Um, as I said in my 2-year update, my hairline has gone back a little, but nothing extreme, and my hair does not seem to be thinning, despite my sometimes paranoia about it. Of course, that could certainly happen in the future, but feeling okay right now. It seems like my genetics might not include those things, or at any rate, my genetics might not lead me to be really hairy. That's how it seems so far, but time will tell. Um, but I feel perfectly fine about the body hair that I have so far, and it's not much compared to some other people, but it's a lot more than I had before, and I don't really think about it that much. It just feels totally fine. And I think that's one of the many things that indicate that transitioning was the right choice for me, and that's a whole other topic that I want to make a video about at some point. Other fears about physical things, I was nervous about getting health problems from transitioning because the testosterone that you get from an external source as opposed to testosterone that you get from an internal source, like your own body's production, which if you were born female, you don't have much of that. So you get it from an external source, such as injections. That has testosterone from an external source can be hard on your liver because your liver has to sort of digest that. Um, so I do get pretty regular blood tests in connection with being on testosterone. I've been getting that like twice a year, but now that things are kind of steady and I've been on T for 2 years, it might be less than twice a year that I get blood tests from now on. But in those blood tests, my liver enzymes or liver markers or whatever get tested, and they've been okay so far. So that's good. So no problems like that. And I mean, I'm careful not to drink a ton of alcohol. I mean, I wouldn't want to do that anyway because it's bad for your health for a variety of reasons. And well, I'm not that into being drunk, so that works out all right. Um, and there's this fear that a lot of people have that testosterone supposedly contributes to cancer of female organs like the uterus or ovaries, that kind of thing. But I did hear from a very experienced OB-GYN who works in the Bay Area, who deals a lot with trans men and is up on the literature. She said that that is a myth. So, there you go. And another fear is I feared that I might end up looking like a woman with a beard if I were to go on testosterone, because before transition I had seen some trans men in real life. I hadn't really met that many trans men in real life before I transitioned, but I had seen some, and There's this particular experience I had several years, like, I don't know if that was like 7 years, 6 years before I started transition. I had, like, in this one little stretch of time, I had seen at least a couple of trans men, which the only trans men that I had met during that time, who it's like they how do I want to put this? It's like they kind of looked kind of feminine or female, like in terms of their face and their body, but they had facial hair. I'm not sure if they were just really early in their transition and got a beard really quick, or maybe it's just their genetics, or what, or I don't know. But that freaked me out because I was like, I don't want to have everyone, like strangers, think that I'm a woman with a beard. And well, that kind of is connected to the fear of not passing ever, which can be a scary thought. Um, so I don't want to put people down as I'm saying these things, um, because I'm only talking about my personal fears. Uh, and I'm just being honest. I mean, I did have that fear. Um, so I'm just thankful that I feel happy with how I look. And it doesn't matter what other people think, it just matters what you yourself think about yourself, and I feel happy with how I look. And then about the fear of not passing, I have been passing perfectly fine, so I'm thankful for that. Now, I wonder if some people would think, like, oh, you're implying that if you don't pass all the time, then that's horrible, and, like, you shouldn't transition. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just thankful that people read me as male, and I don't have awkward gender related interactions with strangers, so I'm thankful for that. That's all I'm saying. Um, so, another fear that I had about physical stuff is the fear that I might feel uncomfortable or unhappy if I were to end up looking kind of like, I want to say, gruff or, um, what's the word that I used to say way back when? If I used to, if I would fear that I would look, I don't know, sort of ugly or like, I don't know, gross or something. Because, see, I would see trans men like on YouTube or MySpace like a million years ago, and I would look at how they looked before transition and then after being on T for a long time, and I would have this thought, which I think is might be influenced by my sexual orientation, like that I'm attracted to women. So, in that way, when I'm thinking about people I'm attracted to, I think that a more like female face sort of looks better or looks prettier or something like that because that's what I'm attracted to. So way back when I would compare these pictures of trans men pre and post transition, I would look at their photos where they'd been on T for a while and I go like, ugh, they look scruffy, gruff, like their face is not delicate like it used to be. Um, and then if they weren't clean shaven, I go like, oh, they look kind of scraggly. So I think I don't know that I want to look like that and be like just sort of rough looking and not as attractive as a female face can look. But in hindsight, I think that those fears were sort of, that was sort of, I had some confusion basically, and that I was confusing, as I often did back in my life previously, confusing what I was attracted to versus what I wanted to look like. So, um, I am way happier with my appearance now than pre-T for sure. I'm like, oh my god, thank God. Like when I compare pictures of myself now versus the past, I'm like, oh, I'm so much happier with how I look now. Um, okay, I'll move on from that because I feel like I would just repeat myself if I said more. Um, okay, and other physical fears, just one or two more. So related to top surgery, that's a whole other thing, but I'll just say a quick word. Quick word. Famous last words, right? I was worried that if I were to have top surgery, something might go wrong with my nipples, like that I would lose the nipples, or that I would lose nipple sensation, which is likely to happen, right? That happens for most people, I think. But I've had top surgery almost 2 years ago, and I don't really have nipple sensation. Like there is some sort of numb skin areas, and it's like I don't care. I'm just so happy to have the results that I have. It's like the nipple sensation or skin sensation. That's like, at this point, I'm like, why would I even care that much about that when what's at stake is having a chest that suits me or not? That's just my personal feelings, okay? I'm not saying that other people should feel that way. And then I did like not really lose the nipples, but I had bad scarring, so they're basically just scar tissue now. The nipples kind of got eaten by the scar tissue, and I don't have. I'll show you. I don't have the actual nipple part in the middle that sticks out. That just kind of got eaten by the scar tissue, so they're flat and they're sort of mottled. So I'm really not thrilled about that. I'm certainly not happy with it, but it doesn't get me down nearly as much as I would have expected. Okay, the last physical fear. Okay, so I had heard that um, that trans guys, had changes to the genital area because of testosterone, like that the parts would grow. And that's obviously true, as people know. And so part of what I had heard is that you can have sensitivity down there, like skin sensitivity, that could be really intense and really uncomfortable and painful, like with rubbing against clothes and stuff. I was actually quite nervous about that. A lot. Really nervous for a long time before transitioning. Because that just sounded like a really horrible situation to me to have discomfort, like all the time. That did make me hesitate a lot before transitioning. Um, but, so, okay, that did happen. I'm 2 years on T, so, some people say, oh, it happens for a little while, and then the sensitivity, like the hypersensitivity, decreases once your body gets into sort of a steady state, once you get past the major, like, growth phase. But it's it's kind of a problem. I'll admit that. So one of my fears related to this was that I wouldn't be able to ride a bike. But as I think I mentioned before, riding a bike is totally fine. Like pressure, completely fine. It's just like rubbing of fabric, like soft rubbing of fabric, which you would get from walking, moving in any way. That is extremely uncomfortable to the point of painful sometimes. So I'm not gonna lie. It really is a drag. It really does get me down. Um, so I've spent a lot of time thinking about how to sort of manage that, and uh, a lot of it is about clothes you wear, underwear you wear. Like, I feel like I may have mentioned this, or maybe I mentioned it to a friend. I can't remember, but so I used to be able to wear any kind of underwear that I felt like. I didn't have to worry well, I didn't have to worry that much about where the seams were and stuff. I mean, sometimes I did if the seam was like in a really, really bad location, then I couldn't wear it. But now it's it's like I have to wear or I so okay, I could wear really tight underwear. My options are like really tight with no seam right there, um, so that there's like no sort of loose rubbing, like really tight. So that's what I wear to the gym. That's what I have to wear to the gym for my own comfort. Or when I'm not doing like exercises like what I do at the gym, then I prefer to wear really loose boxers and loose pants, as loose as I can wear without looking like I have like balloon pants or something, or looking like I'm sagging. Like loose boxers with no seam anywhere near the sensitive area. And then still, sometimes it's uncomfortable, depending on how I'm moving. So it does suck. But it's manageable if I put thought into my clothes. Um, yeah. And, you know, if I do wear like tight boxer briefs, then it's pretty much fine. But the thing with that is that, like, if you're doing something where you're sweating and you're wearing tight clothes, that's gross. So I only like to do that for a short time, like going to the gym and then I change clothes after the gym. Or, you know, in the winter if I'm not sweating, but I kind of sweat anyway. Yeah. So I feel sort of iffy about talking about these things because it's extremely personal, but the whole reason I make these videos is to try to, well, not the whole reason, but one of the reasons is to try to help people who are in a position like what I used to be before transition, where I was just wondering about these things and trying to figure out, well, if this fear came true, would transition still be worth it? And of course, you can't predict these things before you experience transition yourself. Everybody's different, that's for sure. I know a lot of trans guys who really do not have the hypersensitivity down there that I do. And I should mention, just so you know, I have always had really sensitive skin, like all over. Like I would wear sports bras inside out so that the seams wouldn't chafe me. So I've always had really sensitive skin. So if you don't have sensitive skin, then this might not be so much of a problem for you. Of course, I can never make predictions. Nobody can make those predictions. Um, but is transition worth it for me? Yeah. Oh my god. Like, even though this problem that I was just talking about sucks, like, transition is still so worth it. It really is really worth it. So, there's that. Well, clearly, I'm going to have to make a separate video about my fears that are sort of in the psychological, social, emotional realm, because I've only talked about physical. Okay. So, let me know if you have any questions. Alright. Thank you for watching. Bye.